to attend the session today, and in the interest of transparency, then we've got a recording of this session. So we just started recording that. What we'll do to start with is just introduce a couple of Westminster colleagues that are on the call, and then feel free for others that are on the call if you want to either drop in the chat, or if you've got a question and you just then introduce who you are, that would be helpful. But I think probably most helpful at this stage, and so that we're not eating into too much of your time, which is a Q&A for yourselves on the spec, that we just do the intros from Westminster. So I'll start off, and then I'll introduce colleagues from Westminster who are involved with this. So I'm Tom Harding, I'm Head of Responsible Economy, and with my colleagues from the Business Unit and Employment Service, I'm overseeing this commission. So I'll go to Ilona next.
So my name is Ilona. I'm working as Employer Relationships Manager, and I'm actually supporting Tom with this specific recruitment grant, Hospitality and Leisure Recruitment Grant, and working alongside other of my colleagues. So maybe I will move to Sylvia.
Thank you, Ilona. Hello, good morning. My name is Sylvia Kinkessa, and I'm Programme Manager for Westminster Employment Service Jobs and Training, and I actually directly line manage Ilona. So we've been working together as a team with Tom on this initiative. Sean?
Good morning, I'm Sean Treen, and I'm External Funding and Compliance Manager and sit in the Business and Enterprise team. My role in this, as the name suggests, is compliance, ensuring we're adhering to government's grant conditions, and then ongoing, once the contract is awarded, ensuring that whoever is successful will be adhering to the contract conditions and monitoring performance. Rachel?
Hi all, I'm Rachel Thurnace and I'm the Business Support Programme Manager in the Business and Enterprise Service. My role in all of this is that I've been leading on the development of the ARG proposals and coordination piece internally.
Fabulous. There are other Westminster colleagues that are on the call as well, that are interested in the views and can also chip in with responses here, but that's the kind of core team that's involved with this particular specification and grant call. I've put in the chat a kind of loose agenda for how we'd like to just run this session. We want to give everyone, we want to maximise really the kind of opportunity for you to kind of ask questions of us. Just in terms of you know, a couple of house rules really, just to guide how we kind of operate this session. What we're able to do is give as much kind of answers that will be consistent with the specification that we've put out. And for those that haven't seen it, it's on the council's website. If you kind of, Sean, Rachel, if you want to help me out here, but if you, we can either share the link here if you haven't already seen it, or if you kind of Google in Westminster ARG, then you can see the documents that relate to this hospitality call. So we're going to be keeping to script as much as possible. If you can keep your questions quite concise and ask for points of either kind of clarification on the specification rather than perhaps asking us for an opinion on it, because we'll just be able to guide people back to the specification. We're here to help as much as possible. The purpose is to try and get really good quality bids and to assist you with that, with the information that we provide both on the call and any follow-up that we do afterwards. Yeah, if you keep your questions quite concise, put in the chat about your kind of questions and we'll come to it, or put your hand up and we'll come to you. There will be the opportunity as well following the meeting, if you've got further kind of questions. If you direct those through to our business unit, again, the address is on our website, and just so that we've got one place where all the questions are going through, send your questions through to the business unit and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible I'll mention it at the end, but our intention is if there are questions that we can't answer here, or we just need to, go back and, work out our kind of position between us, then we will endeavour to come back. I think Rachel and Sian, we've committed to coming back by Tuesday, and we will publish on our website
I think
by Wednesday. Okay, so we will send so any questions that come through either through that email or if there are things that we kind of can't answer now, we'll put down the question and our response to that and put it on the site by Wednesday. Rachel, Sian, do chip in if I've got any of the details there incorrect, but is that right?
Yep.
Okay. If that's clear with everyone, then as a starting point, why don't we bring the specification up? And the way that we can run this is I'll kind of go through different sections of this of the specification, and I'll kind of pause and stop as we're kind of going along to take any questions rather than wait to the end. And we'll do our best to kind of answer those questions as we go along. It's not my kind of intention here to just verbatim read off the specification, but I'll just highlight a few points so that those that aren't familiar with this and that might be coming to it a little bit later, then you've just got a good grounding of what we're looking for through this grant call. So, Ilona, I wonder if you could share your screen and we'll get the specification up. Sian has kindly, so we're putting it on the screen here, and Sian has kindly put in the chat there the link for the specification, and there's other kind of documents on that link as well, including some background research and information about the needs of the sector. So we'll just get the spec up and then we'll get going.
Can you see it?
Yep, that's great, Ilona. So I guess the starting point here, which Rachel mentioned, is that this is part of a wider programme of investment that the government is making and that the council is making, called the Additional Restrictions Grant, which is to help businesses that have been most impacted by the COVID pandemic. So for this particular project, what we're seeking is interested organisations to put forward proposals for a hospitality and leisure recruitment service to operate in Westminster. We're making £1 million available during the period March 2022 to March 2024. And if you go down a bit then, Ilona, down to the kind of rationale. But I think most people on the call, if not all of you, will be aware of the need which this responds to, which in essence is the difficulties that businesses, hospitality and leisure businesses in Westminster are facing with regards to recruitment, and that then impacting on both their viability, their operations, and ultimately, the attractiveness of the West End if they're not able to properly function. So what we're seeking here is a programme and a provider that can help address that using the grant monies that we're making available. I don't intend to kind of go through the rationale here. I'm going to take it as read that most people understand the needs that we're responding to here. And of course, what we are looking for beyond the needs that we've put in outline here, which is, desk research, information that we've been able to pull together with your inputs and from others. Of course, what we're looking for from the provider is a more detailed kind of understanding of what those needs are directly from businesses. So you'll be able to kind of articulate what those needs are and the best approach to respond to that. In terms of the aims and objectives, just a few things that I wanted to draw out here. You know, what we've put in, to the best of our knowledge, is you know, about how this service and grant call responds to local need. What we're not in the business of doing, the council, is prescribing exactly what all of those activities should be. So we've set out here in the aims and objectives the type of services that we think will support businesses. But to be clear, what we're after is the ideas from the providers and those that are putting forward their proposals about what they think that might be, and based on detailed knowledge of what the sector requires. So I just wanted to make that kind of point clear, that it's not the council being too prescriptive. We do want to give the kind of opportunity here for innovation and fresh thinking. Let me just stop at that point, and I'll do that after each section, and we can take questions. So just bear with me. I can see whose hands are up then. Right. So Paul, hello, Paul. Do you want to introduce yourself and
yes,
yeah,
Paul
come in with your question.
Paul Barnes, I'm head of advocacy for the US Fin Company. You mentioned on the aims and objectives there. I think in an earlier briefing you mentioned the idea of talent managers for the area. Do you have just a feel for what number of talent managers, given the scale and what you're in terms of relationship with businesses and the scale of Westminster's hospitality and entertainment sectors are? Do you have a feel for how many you would expect a bid to produce? Is it 1, 2, 3, 5, 100, 200? Just a ballpark figure that might make sure that if any bid is going in, we sort of get it right.
Sian or Alona, is that one that you want to come back on?
The way this is being let is that it is up to the individual organisation to decide the process and the application which would best suit the needs of the businesses, which is why we haven't included about talent managers within it, because some proposals may not actually include that, so we're not being prescriptive on stating that we need specific elements to be met.
Perhaps I can, or what I can add there, Paul, without giving a figure on, you know, should it be 2, 3, 4 or more, is we do know from kind of experience of within the council anyway of running similar hospitality recruitment projects, but this is different, but it's just a kind of reflection perhaps on what we've done in the past, is that in our view and our experience, and Alona, Sylvia, please do come in here, is that the relationship management here with businesses and points of contact is a valuable offer for those businesses, i.e., you know, who do they turn to? Who is their, I guess, their kind of account manager or lead or talent sourcer? And so in our experience, that is something that has worked well. What this grant allows for, in a way that we weren't able to do through previous programs, is offer a lot more scale than you know, what we were able to do, which was often through kind of individual talent managers forming part of a program or service. And in our experience, that created difficulties, of course, when someone goes on holiday or sickness, or just the scale of what you're able to offer there is, you know, you can make an impact with one, but in our experience, what this allows us to do is to scale up much quicker and offer more resource than what we were able to do in the past. So I'm not giving you a kind of direct, a specific number here, because there are other activities which we'll come to in a bit, which we've referenced in the specification, around, the campaign and publicity, other ways in which you'll construct your bids connecting to the money that we got.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so let me move on then, and Paul, unless you've got another question straight after that, if you could drop your hand.
I had, sorry.
Yeah, lovely.
Hang on, hang on, I'm loaded. Right, done.
Great. Okay, so if it hasn't been made spelled out to you already through a session that we had before Christmas, or in the spec that we've got here, if we just move down to the eligibility and target groups, that this is for hospitality and leisure businesses. We have included leisure businesses, and following kind of feedback, we wanted to kind of keep this open. We recognise the need that leisure businesses also have in Westminster, and so this has been an addition that we've made to the programme fairly kind of recently, which is reflected in the spec. Of course it is, but just stating the obvious here, it's for businesses that are in Westminster. It isn't for businesses that are outside of the Westminster's boundaries. And what we've included in the specification there is some definitions of what we mean by an interpretation of those sectors, and to give you some scope around eligibility. Sian, I'm not sure if there's anything that you want to add there in terms of where those definitions come from, but I think it's quite clear in the spec.
Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but these definitions come from the ARG guidance that was issued by the government in relation to the whole scheme.
Yeah, that's right, Sian. Yeah, exactly. So it's just to provide clarity on what we mean by those sectors. We appreciate that different organisations, different people interpret those sectors as different, to mean different things and encompass different business groups. So this is just to provide some clarity on who we are effectively trying to target, and that is based upon who the government deemed to be the most impacted business groups.
Okay, and I think it should make it for bidders anyway. It makes it less restrictive than if we just said hospitality, and of course that you're aware of significant need in something that might not strictly fit within hospitality but would be more leisure, and then therefore why would we put additional restrictions on who we can help if there's considerable need in both sectors. I think just a couple of other points that I wanted to get across here as well around what the programme is and eligibility is that we're not specifying it has to be a business. The support can only be given to a business of a certain size, however you may define that. So we're not putting any restrictions in with regards to that on size or turnover. I think the other thing to flag here as well is that the grant here is to support businesses. This isn't, and this is an important distinction, is that this isn't a welfare to work or employment initiative. It's a programme that we've set up to deliver the purpose of the ARG grant, which is to support businesses, and therefore there is a difference, of course, between what we're doing here and what we do, for example, through the Westminster Employment Service. So that the need that needs to be met here primarily is from a business perspective, and of course what we would expect is for the bidders to set out what those needs are and then how the activities respond to that. It's different, of course, if that was a welfare or employment initiative where we set out what are the needs of local residents in terms of skills, employment, and so on, and how a program responds to that. This isn't an employment or welfare initiative. However, absolutely what Westminster would want is, and we think there's a logic for this, is to engage with local residents, i.e. a pool of local people that can be engaged with this program then to support businesses with their hospitality needs. Of course, that is something that forms part of the council City for All approach, and of course we would welcome that within the proposals, but it is a clear distinction there. And Rachel, Sian, I'm not sure if there's anything else that you want to add to that, or if indeed there are any questions that people have about that element.
Yeah, this is purely a business support service. It's not about getting individuals into jobs. That is not the outcome, the main outcome of this. It's supporting the industry to recruit and retain staff, reduce churn, and have an ongoing benefit for the years ahead. So it's about the business itself, not about the individual. And that is the main element.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's not to say that we don't acknowledge that there will be a knock-on benefit to the individuals or the employees that potentially take up any jobs within the sectors as part of this scheme. But as Sian has rightly mentioned, the main beneficiaries are absolutely the hospitality and the leisure businesses that sign up for this support. So it's important to just reflect that within your proposals as well.
Okay, I think that we've, just touched on some of the other bits that are referenced in that section on eligibility and target groups on the geography. And but are there any questions that people have on that section, or any clarifications that people would like from us? Absolutely fine if there isn't. I'm mindful that this is, for many of you, just a kind of a listening exercise, but feel free to drop any questions in the chat that come to you. Okay, so Ilona, shall we move down to the partnership working?
Tom, do you want to mention about the area as well? Just to...
About what, sorry?
The
Ilona?
area for the Westminster in overall?
Yeah, sorry if I haven't already mentioned, then the area here is so the businesses will need to be in Westminster. In terms of the talent that can, that the programme will seek to bring in, and I guess a pool of people, just to be clear, we're not restricting that to Westminster. So the businesses the individuals that will be recruited and that this service will help kind of put forward, they don't have to be Westminster residents, and that is a distinction, as Sian kind of mentioned, from employment programs that we've run in the past, which have just been exclusively to support Westminster residents. This program can draw on a kind of wider pool of people, because the primary purpose here is to support the businesses and not to put kind of then exclusions around, the individuals that are put forward. I hope that's clear to everyone, and we've referenced that in the spec. Okay, so let's have a look at section 5 and just explain the logic here. So really the partnership working here, I think, refers to our expectations about how a bid would be constructed, or a proposal that would be constructed, which delivers on a number of things. One, around the kind of engagement with businesses Well, of course, having strong relationships and networks in with the business improvement districts, with commercial property owners, and directly with the sector. We need a provider that has got those connections and relationships, and therefore, you know, that kind of element of partnership working not just in one small geography but across the city is really important. We also know that, you know, in terms of being able to engage with people that we're trying to attract into the sector or that might have the skills, then having relationships with a number of different kind of organizations that could be employment providers, they could be training programs, they could be with you know, other commercial recruitment providers. You know, this element of weaving together a partnership, we think, kind of underpins you know, a strong kind of proposal and what will be required through the bid. So really, this section 5 just sets out the logic for how we think, you know, the partnership would be. It gives you some pointers as to how that might be constructed. I think the other thing to add here is that you know, there's a fair amount of expertise, and this isn't to say that we know best at all, but there's a degree of expertise within the council of us having run programs locally with a number of partners, not too dissimilar to what is being, you know, to the program that's being put together here. So within the employment team and our business team, you know, we've got people that have been involved with hospitality and leisure recruitment functions within Westminster. And what we're keen to do is, rather than the council, you know, be viewed as an organisation which is just effectively writing the specification and providing the funding for this, we do feel that you know, that we have something to kind of offer this program, and we can support with the kind of co-design and development of this once a bidder has been you know, appointed. So we're happy to kind of make that available to the partnership that is successful here, because there's a lot that we can put into the program and support from a council perspective. So I think the bottom line here is that we see ourselves as being kind of more than just the organisation that offers the funding for this, but we can use our relationships and convening power to support the provider. Let me stop there and take any questions or comments. I am looking down, see if there's any hands up. Well, can't see any. Okay. Was there anything there that Westminster colleagues just wanted to come in on, the kind of partnership element there, just to provide clarity to the bidders about that section? Sylvia, Lona, anything that you want to reference?
No, nothing to add from me. Ilona?
Not really.
Okay. Well, let's move on. So project deliverables. So again, just to kind of emphasize, just to draw out a few points here, is that the project deliverables have been put in here as a guideline. They're not prescriptive, they're put in as a guideline. So the type of deliverables that we'll be looking for will be around, you know, as I've referenced under that partnership working, a provider that can identify and work very kind of closely with hospitality and leisure businesses to ensure that there's well, one, that you've got a good understanding of need, and secondly, to ensure that the service that is offered there's an uptake of that from Westminster businesses. Ilona, do you want to just give a commentary there on the number of businesses that we envisage being supported here and the hires and what that refers to? I know that there is a footnote within the specification, but just to provide a little bit of understanding to the bidders.
So we thought that obviously at the moment there is a huge need for support within the hospitality and leisure businesses, and we believe that and then Paul, that's probably there will be the answer, like Isabel mentioned, that we think 400 businesses should be supported for the 2 years of service. And then you can divide how many people you would need to deliver this support for the at least 400 businesses. And we believe that they could bring at least 2,200 hires. So we are we've been calculating based on specific numbers, but then every bidder can actually think in a different way. So we don't want to be prescriptive, but I think that's the numbers we would think that would be the minimum to achieve, and with the other points, obviously, to support big drives of recruitment within Easter period and as well Christmas period. So we know the hires won't be stable throughout the year, but there will be peak seasons where the hires will increase. So that's basically what we included in the spec. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ilona. And then just drawing out a few other points that are referenced under the project deliverables. We do feel that, in terms of a legacy for this project, us having a kind of an evaluation of what's worked, some views on how we might want to sustain the program would be valuable. I don't think what we're suggesting here is that after the 2 years there will be no need for a service ongoing, but we do at the same time just have to kind of recognise that we've only got a finite amount of grant here. We stretched that over 2 years, but of course there may be and there will be a need ongoing. So this is sort of like the legacy element, and an evaluation will support us on the partnership to kind of better understand what's worked and how we might embed best practice to take forward the service beyond the 2 years that we got funding for. As a kind of just a point of housekeeping, we kind of referenced there that the publicity on the programme as well. This is a grant from the ARG, which is being administered by the council, and therefore we expect that to be referenced in all of the publicity material for the project. Sean, nothing more to add on that?
No.
Okay, then is there any questions on that? Angela, hello.
Oh, good morning. Just a quick one on that, and it's probably quite a minor point, but would you require sign off on things like the collateral, the major collateral? If it has to reference, to what degree does Westminster Council need a sight of whatever comms and marketing is produced?
I mean, we'd see ourselves as a partner as well as the funder in this, Angela. I mean, our interests are really to support the provider to get on with the activities as quickly as possible. Of course, just in terms of a kind of sign off, maybe at the kind of initial stages, as we're developing kind of ways of working and protocols, then of course the council would be involved there. We certainly don't, we wouldn't want to be involved at all in anything that goes out that then has to be signed off by the city council. But Sian, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong there, but we don't want to put in that level of bureaucracy. But you know, as a partner in the programme and a funder, then in the initial stages, then, you know, working through a little bit of that just to sign off and make sure everyone's happy, I think would probably be the way that we would approach that. So, you know, it's being pragmatic.
That's definitely my thoughts on that, Tom, in that initially maybe more involvement in that, so we come to an understanding of what Westminster needs are, and then moving forward there wouldn't be a need for sign off just in the 3 monthly project meetings, just reviewing what marketing has been done, and if there are any corrections that need to be made in future things, just doing it that way. It's not going to be a really onerous admin burden type scheme.
Hopefully you're all breathing a sigh of relief there. Sian mentions those words. Okay, hope that helps, Angela. The section there on
another question, Tom.
Oh, sorry, Callum.
That's okay.
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to ask a quick question around the I think it was 2,200 hires that was quoted earlier on, and I was just kind of linking it to the responsible economy guidance policy. So, say for instance, if a landowner was involved in partnership or a potential bid, and you know we played a key role in terms of placing people into end-use job opportunities across our portfolio, would those employment outcomes would we be able to use them as part of the the inclusive economy guidance?
From can I just jump in, Tom?
Yeah, sure.
From a compliance point of view, because this will be specifically funded, I wouldn't expect you to be able to use outcomes for this for other elements.
Okay.
That's my gut feeling on it, but I will go back and I will think about the implications of that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it would be specifically to Westminster residents if we were looking to count the job outcomes. So, you know, we won't be expecting to place Lambeth and then counting that towards inclusive economy guidance. But I just wanted to ask a question just so I've got some, just as clear.
I just think, personally, I think using external funds for something which should be responsible economy, people might see that as, I wouldn't say unethical as such. That's the wrong word to use, I would think, but it just doesn't fit right with responsible economy, using external funds for one thing and counting them in the outcomes. If you understand what I'm trying to say, Callum.
I do, yeah. I get it.
I think the other dynamic is around it not being there not being too much emphasis placed on this being an employability program, because it's absolutely not an employability program. Whilst we do recognise, as I said before, that there will be additional outcomes and benefits, etc., for local people and even people outside of the borough who take up these roles, we don't want to, and this is something BEIS have been very, very clear on in their guidance, we do not want this to look as though this is an employability program. This is absolutely about supporting the industry to fill in these roles and also to retain the talent that they need to operate.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I suppose it's just with the industry saying that recruitment is their main issue. Certainly a lot of our customers, that's the main thing that they're coming back and saying that they're struggling with. Ultimately, however which way we want to all look at it, recruitment is going to be an important part of this program.
Absolutely.
I think one thing we would want for sure, and certainly don't want to just make this a real challenge for providers that are putting in bids is for you to be able to connect in with a range of different programs that operate both in Westminster, central London, and perhaps beyond. That could be local employment initiatives. They could be through connections with local colleges or the job centre. You know, they could be completely different, separate kind of marketing exercises that you'll think about to engage with people that might have an interest in, you know, to feed then the businesses. And if we make it really difficult because something is already funded by a particular organization, then in a way I can see that that doesn't necessarily help the partnership. So as much as possible, if it delivers on, you know, if you can draw on that wider pool of people as possible and to get them engaged, enthused, you know, not necessarily skilled up. That's not the purpose of this program here, because there's others that operate in that space. But in a way, this program acting as a kind of funnel through to the businesses of that talent, then of course what you'd want to do is just draw on as many programs as you can. But Sian and I can just take that away and just put a few kind of bullet points down just to give you a bit of yeah, a bit more kind of guidance on that, Callum, and to others, of course.
Great, thanks, Tom. Okay. So if we move on then to Angela.
Yeah, sorry about that. So just to clarify, some of the ones which obviously as bits we're already aware of, but some of the organisations that you work with in a partnership way, would you facilitate the introductions to those? Obviously, some of them we already know, but some of them we may not be aware of. So is that something that you would supply in the first instance to almost hit the ground running and give a nice sort of warm introduction?
We can certainly do that, Angela, and that's an offer to everyone. You know, there's a lot of knowledge within the team of different organisations that operate both within Westminster and through Westminster's connections with neighbouring boroughs and central London. So yeah, I think everyone can take it as read that that's what the council would be able to do in terms of our facilitation role.
Yeah, because it's important to sort of acknowledge the past history and the relationships and where they all are at the moment, so that, like I say, the service provider can come in and sort of start the delivery side of things rather than spending the time sort of building the relationship in the first instance and understanding the background.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to the capability, skills and experience. So really this just falls out from the spec in terms of, you know, the requirements that we've set out and the deliverables. You know, it's working kind of in partnership, you knowing businesses very well. You know, the things that we've kind of referenced here, which we'll be assessing in the proposals, are around the knowledge, the track record. Obviously, we're kind of committing a significant amount of ARG money towards this, so we want to see, you know, we've got to protect ourselves. So, you know, looking at the track record is important here. Kind of just being very clear that this, you know, it's not necessarily something that is we're all setting something new up here. The provider is putting forward proposals for a kind of new offer and service, and so experience of, you know, co-design, developing services with businesses and local partners is an important element of that, and showing the skills that you got to engage, consult, listen, respond to what you're hearing, and synthesize that into something that's really coherent, makes sense for the businesses and what we're trying to do through this commission is really important. and equally then, which we touched on earlier, is just being able to kind of market the offer, to engage with a number of different kind of partners, to engage with different businesses, to promote the impact of what's being achieved, and to, you know, sustain the kind of engagement. That's another, I guess, capability and skill that we'll be assessing through the evaluation.
Tom, can I also add in that we're not averse to receiving consortium bids either. It's not that this is just one organisation. We will be open and will actively encourage consortium bids for submission as well.
Absolutely, Sean. And again, I don't want to kind of dwell too much on our experience and ways that we've kind of run things in the past, but clearly this isn't a kind of program that where one organization can do everything. You know, the partnership element of it makes it very clear there. So having proposals which are really kind of clearly defined in terms of the roles of different organizations, either as part of a network of this, or if they're kind of formally part of your, for want of a better word, your supply chain, I think will be kind of really important. So yeah, just reiterating what kind of Sean has just referenced there. Moving on to, unless there's any points of clarification or questions on that section, then looking at the funding available. So it's a 2-year funding that we've got available up to £1 million. And whilst you can bring in, which is obviously something that we would welcome, you can bring in match funding to support this, the delivery of what we're doing on top of the 1 million, but proposals can't exceed that maximum value. Sean, anything to add there, or Rachel?
That's right, Tom. The maximum grant award is up to £1 million for this scheme. So yeah, we would not be able to exceed that grant award.
Okay. So then just looking at the timetable, both where we're at now and how, you know, what we're kind of expecting in terms of proposals back and assessment start dates. So I hope that's clearly kind of set out for everyone there. We do recognise that what we're asking providers to do is to submit proposals in a pretty condensed timescale here. We have referenced in the specification that, you know, we don't expect all of the kind of co-design work, engagement with businesses to know exactly what the service will look like to happen before you submit your bids. And therefore, you know, we do expect that the bids will reference then a kind of phase where you'll be doing some of that kind of co-design work, developing up the detail, developing up marketing plans, you know, all the activities that you would expect in a kind of initiation. So we do kind of acknowledge that, and we think that it's right to kind of build that into the process, i.e. your bids will be to the best of your knowledge, but of course there'll be a set of activities for the provider that we then appoint to then do that initiation and you know, development work. So the deadline for, as we mentioned earlier on, we will come back with clarifications to any questions and publish that on the website by the 26th. The deadline for submissions is the 31st. We'll then have a panel from within the council that will assess and shortlist bids, and then we'll seek approval for a bid or the recommendation from executive director and cabinet member within the council. Sean, Rachel, I think that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, so just to provide some clarity on the process, so officers will of course review the proposals that come in. We will be shortlisting the top 3 kind of proposals that we receive for the scheme, and the intention is to then present the top 3 to the executive directors. So that would be Debbie Jackson and Gerald Almaroth. Debbie Jackson is Executive Director for Growth Planning and Housing, and Gerald Almaroth is Executive Director for Finances and Resources. And then, yeah, we hope to announce the successful partner or consortia on the 10th of February.
And just so everybody's clear, the assessment will be done here based on the submission. And there's a form that's on the council site, an online form that bidders complete. And we've tried to make that as straightforward as possible in terms of the formatting of it and being able to complete it, it not being kind of too onerous, but just so that everybody is clear, the assessment will be based solely on that submission. There won't be presentations that we will require from shortlisted bidders. I mean, for those that aren't familiar as well about perhaps the kind of logic for trying to do this so quickly is that the ARG grant, or the tranche of money that we have got, which we're using for this programme, we do need to use that by March the 31st. So that's driven a lot of the timescales for this grant call, and the timescales that you can see there, which we do appreciate are quite squashed. But on the positive side, then we can kind of then get on with the program quite quickly at a time of huge demand and need, rather than have a kind of protracted period where businesses have got that need and they are waiting for some form of service to come and support them. Not that this is the only way, of course, that they secure their kind of labour, but it's in everybody's interest here to get a programme up and running as quickly as possible. But Rachel, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna echo that, Tom, because obviously when BEIS released, when they allocated their funding to the various local authorities, within their guidance, they did explicitly state that the key intention is to disperse this funding as quickly as possible to address the local economic need. So with this tranche of funding, what we have done is to split it into 2 pots effectively, administer a grant scheme to those who are most in need of the support, but also to deliver a suite of business support activity, of which this is a part. So as Tom rightly said, we do appreciate that the timescales are incredibly tight, and we also appreciate the pressures that you are under, but we have been given no kind of wiggle room with the defrayal date of the 31st of March. So we do need to move quickly, but of course the benefit of that is that we are going to be addressing the local economic need almost imminently.
Okay, just in terms of the response document, certainly worth everybody checking that out at the earliest opportunity for those that are intending to submit a bid, just so that you can navigate and see your way around what we're asking for. And equally, if you have any kind of problems or there's glitches our end, then you can flag them to us, and please do so if that's the case. I think that brings us to the end of, there's nothing more that's in the specification. I have referenced that there's background information about the sector, which brings together a whole range of different stats from different surveys, both kind of Westminster and a kind of wider geography, that helps to point to some of the need. But again, that's not exhaustive. It's just put out there to help guide bidders about the information that we have. If there is other information as well that either we've pulled together in the past or that you think that would be helpful to make available, then do let us know and we'll put that on the website. Can I just ask if there's any other questions that people have got either now that we can deal with, or clarifications. Like I say, please do, in terms of kind of next steps, if there are questions that you've got that you feel either haven't been addressed or that come to you over the next few days, please do send those through, and we'll do our best to get back. Well, we'll then reply to those questions by Wednesday. There's nothing else that I wanted to flag, but I'll just turn to Westminster colleagues if there's anything that I've missed that we want to cover, but particularly Rachel, Sian and Ilona.
Rachel, you are on mute.
Thank you. You would have thought I would have learned by now. No, just to say thank you all for coming, and hopefully it has been an insightful session and has provided at least a little bit of clarity, and will therefore assist you in developing and submitting your proposals. As Tom has said, feel free to use the kind of next couple of working days to send across any kind of subsequent thoughts or questions that you have. Please note that the deadline for that is Wednesday, the 26th of January. Thanks,
Sian, thanks, Rachel. Sian or Ilona, anything that you would like to add, or Sylvia?
Nothing from me, but just to make people aware that the deadline for submission, as always, is the deadline for submission. If it's submitted after that, it will not be scored and will be disqualified.
Okay, you've been all warned and told. Ilona, anything? Sylvia, anything from yourselves?
No, probably we are only waiting for great proposals now.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you all appreciate that we have to play these kind of sessions by the book and tell you what's in the specification. And of course, we're hugely kind of excited about the energy that people will bring to this program, and the partnerships that you'll construct, and ultimately the impact that this will make to local businesses. We're all aware of a hell of a lot of need, and we see this as a great opportunity, through kind of innovative, fresh thinking to really kind of set out a brilliant response to businesses. So, don't take the kind of way that we have to kind of manage these sessions as any kind of reflection of the council's kind of energy. We are super excited about receiving proposals, and extremely grateful for everyone for putting in the effort in construction, in constructing bids that we're going to receive. So on that note, we'll draw a close to this session, and yeah, thanks very much to everyone for taking the time.
Right,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
Friday all. Bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.